Well, what's going on, everyone? So, in today's video, it's actually gonna be a subscriber requested video, and in one of my most recent live streams, I had a subscriber suggest to me for me doing a video about cars that should not have been curated. So, in this video, I'm going to give you guys 10 cars, in my personal opinion, that should not have never been made in Yu-Gi-Oh. And the reason why I make this video is because it's a fun topic to talk about, very interesting. And let's be honest, there's a lot of broken Yu-Gi-Oh cards that, to be fair, Konami must have been smoking crack when they made them. So all that being said, guys, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, starting off by saying, let's go shoot straight into the video with my number 10 pick, Spell Book of Judgment. Now, when it comes down to a card like Spell Book of Judgment, I really got to read the effect from quote, because it's a long effect, and rereading it again today, I was like, why did Konami think this card was good? Spell Book of Judgment pretty much read, during the end phase of the turn, this card was activated. Add one spellbook card from your deck to your hand, expect Spell Book of Judgment, up to the number of spell cards activated after this card's resolution. Then you can special summon from your deck one spellcast type monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of cards added to your deck to your hand. You can only activate this effect once per turn and only use you can only use the effect of Spell with Judgment once per turn. So pretty much you can play as many spell cards you want as a turn, which is why back in the day everyone was running Upstart at 3 in the spellbook deck. And then you play your spellbook cards to do a lot of searching and adding and drawing. Then next thing you know, play Judgment. You add more cards to your hand and bring out a High Priestess to really make the opponent's day really bad. Spellbook of Judgment was on this list because, like, when you think about the amount of pluses Spellbook got off of this card, you were sitting there scratching your head like, wow, why was this card? How did somebody at Konami think this card was, like, legit? Like, the deck plus for days and the Priestess card was so good. Now, on the contrary, Dragon Rulers in the same format had their dragon card, whose name I can't think of right now, but that drew a card for every dragon since the graveyard. But the thing about that dragon card, it was only for the dragon archetype, and after Dragon Rulers, the card pretty much died. Either way, Spell Book of Judgment is a broken card, and it deserves to be on this list at number 10. So, coming to this at number 9, we got Sixth Sense. Now, Sixth Sense is another card that's really tricky with its effect. Its effect basically read, you declare two numbers from 1 to 6. Your opponent rolls a 6-sided die, and if the result is one of the numbers you declared, you draw the amount. Many cards. Otherwise, send the card from top of your deck to the graveyard. People usually pick 5 or 6 because if your opponent hits a 5, you're going to draw 5 or you're going to draw 6 cards. And if anything else they hit, they're just going to mill. Another card that was used to abuse the Dragon Rulers, if my memory is correct, because you can mill off some rulers into your graveyard and then bring them back with their effects. And if you plus from it, you just plus like 4 or 5, depending on if your opponent rolls 5 or 6. Once again, this is another example of a card that's just dumb and Konami should never have been created, should never have seen the light of day. But I guess it's one of those cards that Konami was like, well, we can just see how it is. But yeah, Sixth Sense is definitely a card that's broken, and I hope we never get a card like that again. Coming in this list at number 8, Skill Drain. Now, while we still have Skill Drain at 1, I personally believe Skill Drain is a card that should not have never been made, and I am currently still an advocate of the card getting banned. Skill Drain effects is very simple. Pay 1,000, negate the effects of all monsters on the field. When Skill Drain first came out, it was pretty much abused in its own type of deck. I mean, you didn't really have too many monsters that were high attack and no effect back then that you do nowadays that you can abuse the card with. But fast forward in today's meta, you really look at how powerful Skill Drain is. If Skill Drain was at 3, it's just pretty much anti-meta almost every meta deck. But some people say it can kind of be good, but sometimes Skill Drain just wins games on its own. I mean, negating effects of everything is retarded. Imperial Order was banned for a reason, and definitely reason. And with that being said, I can definitely see Skill Drain being banned in the near future, or just staying at 1 forever. Either way, I think it's an unfair effect that should not have been made. Number 7, Cyberjar. Now, Cyberjar is another unique card that I feel should not have never been made. This card is retarded. Effect basically reads, flip it up, destroy all monsters on the field, then both players reveal the top 5 cards from their decks. Then special summon all revealed level 4 or lower monsters in face-up attack position or face-up defense position. Also, any remaining cards to their hand. If either player has less than 5 cards in the deck, reveal as many possible. So, both players plus off this card. It's a board wipe, and it can essentially help the player using it just gain advantage. Like, can you imagine Cyberjar in today's meta? Flip it up, blow up the field, and if you're playing a deck like Shadows, or heck, even if you're playing a deck like, let's say for example, that one of those flip summon deck I can't think of right now. The card would be really dumb in said archetypes. But outside of those archetypes, the card could just be abused on a lot of different mill decks. I mean, it's a board wipe. I mean, Cyberjar, like a lot of the jar cards, has a unique effect that can definitely be abused in any meta, and it was definitely abused in this time, which is why it is currently sitting on a ban list, which is why the card should not never have been made. Me personally, I like the card, but this is like a nostalgia thing for me. Coming in this list at number 6, we have Exchange of the Spirit. Now, pre-errata. Current effect of Exchange of the Spirit says if both players have 15 or more cards in their graveyard, they can swap graveyards, etc., etc. But the original effect of Exchange of the Spirit pretty much read, you can only activate this card by paying 1,000 life points while there are 15 or more cards in your graveyard. Both players swap the cards in their graveyard with cards in their deck, then shuffle the cards in their decks and make new decks pretty much. This card was dumb because there's a lot of FTKs people were making first turn with this card. I mean, you filter through your deck with cards like Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and I don't know how the FTK went exactly because I was pretty young when the deck was out, but essentially they drew through their deck, filtered through their deck, set this, activated, GG, no raid. Opponent couldn't do anything. So with that being said, I mean, FTKs are something that should always never be made, and Exchange of the Spirit had to make it on the list because of that. The pre-errata version, I mean, errata is like crap. Coming to number 5, we have Sinister Serpent. Now, Sinister Serpent is another card that should not have never been made. I mean, I get the idea of it, but we did have better versions of the Sinister Serpent, which is a 2-card combo of, I think Night Shadow, Night Ascent, or whatever, which eventually got limited to 1. Sinister Serpent effect is pretty much, while it's in the graveyard, during a semi-phase, you add it back to your hand. Now, this card was abused with cards like Lightning Vortex, Grateful Charity, and it was pretty much used as a resource card to help make cards like the Lightning Vortexes, Divine Wrath, any card that had a hand cost null and void, and that was abused back then. I mean, think about it. Playing your Graceful Charity, you pitch your Serpent, you get your Serpent back next turn, you don't lose at all. It's like makes your Graceful Charity more of a plus. Like Lightning Vortex, just like Divine Wrath. Anything that's a discard becomes more of a plus to you, and usually the discard cards have powerful effects. So with that being said, Sinister Serpent should not have been made because that card was retarded, which is why it's on the ban list once again. Coming to number 4, I have Yugioh the Destructor. Now, Yugioh the Destructor is a pretty good card. Effect basically reads, when I remember correctly, when it's sent to the graveyard, the turn it's sent to the graveyard, all traps can be activated from your hand. Now, this was dirty. There are a lot of Exodia decks built around this card. And outside the Exodia decks, it's just a pretty good card in general. I mean, you could use it like Reckless Greed, etc., etc. But if memory serves me correct, this card filtered a lot of FTK, OTKs, and a lot of Exodia decks, which is essentially FTK, which makes this card one of those powerful cards that should not have never been made. I mean, it's a dumb effect for what it does. Coming to number 3, Delinquent Duo. Pay 1,000 life points. Your opponent picks a card in their hand and discard it to the graveyard. Then you look in your opponent's hand and pick a card out your opponent's hand and put it to the graveyard. If I remember that correct. Pretty much, it's a -2 from your opponent, and it's only a -1 out of you. Why was this card fair? I have no clue, which is why this card is currently on the ban list. There's nothing more to say about this card. The card's crazy good, and I don't expect it to come back anytime soon. If it does, it'll definitely have an errata. Coming to number 2, Victory Dragon. Now, this is a card a lot of players probably would not remember. Victory Dragon, I remember it being a Shonen Jump promo back in the day, and it pretty much had the same effect of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship card effects. Pretty much, if when it attacks your opponent directly, and it hits your opponent with the final blow, making their life points 0, you win the match. Not the duel, the match. Pretty much saying your opponent can beat you game 1. If you somehow luck sack and beat them game 2, and making Victory Dragon be the declaring attacker card, you instantly win the match. They scoop their cards up, GG no read. Now, there's a reason why this card was short-lived. I do believe as soon as it got released, within a week or two, it was banned. Correct me if I'm wrong, you Yu-Gi-Oh! Historian buffs probably know more about that than I do. But I know this card was short-lived, and when I first got it, I know I wasn't able to bring it to locals right away because the time I was able to go to locals, the card was already illegal. But yeah, man, any card that says you can win the match right away is definitely an unfair card and definitely going to be abused in any meta, which is why it's on this list number 2. It's a card that should not never been made because it's just that good. Now, last but not least, number 1 card that should not never been made is Fiber Jar. Fiber Jar is one of my most favorite nostalgic cards ever. Fiber Jar is a card I always thought was really good and pretty funny. It was one of the most broken cards I've ever seen when I was a kid, but I always thought it was pretty cool as well. You flip it up. It's a flip a fake monster just like Cyber Jar. Both players reset their deck, their hand. They keep the life points the same. Shuffle their graveyard into the deck. I think they kept the cards that were banished. They shuffle into their main deck, and both players draw 5. This card caused so many players to get trolled. It caused so many games to go into time, and it allowed a lot of players to win games that should not have. Fiber Jar is the ultimate troll card, which is why it's on the list number 1. It is the embodiment of Yu-Gi-Oh! And what it represents, which is just trolling and winning in goofy ways. But at the same time, it has a nostalgic factor to it because it brings me back to my childhood, which is why I like it, and also which is why it's on this list number 1. I mean, it's Fiber Jar. What can you say, man? Like, the card is crazy good, and even in today's meta, you can just imagine attacking into an opponent, or opponent attacking to you, and you have Fiber Jar. Now that crazy board setup that you just had has to go back into the deck. You have to draw 5. You could potentially draw a bad hand. Your opponent could potentially draw a good hand. And you could be in a losing situation now. And vice versa. So with all that being said, guys, I know there's a lot of cards that should have probably been on this list that should not have been on this list. But I'll leave that for you guys to post in the comment section down below. Me personally, these are just cards I personally feel like should not have been made. So let's hear what you guys got to think about. So with all that being said, guys, post your thoughts and opinions about this video in the comment section down below. If you haven't liked the video already, like the video to support the channel. And if you guys really love the video, think about hitting that subscribe button for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. I'm trying to upload as many videos as I can in a week, and I'll try to do as many live streams as I can in a week as well. So with all that being said, man, this is Chris from Innovation Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm signing out. Peace, guys, and stay innovative. Deuces.